Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andre Lennon, Group Manager for ESP Associates, and I serve on the Board of Directors as NCEDA's 2024-2025 Secretary Treasurer. I'm excited to be your MC today for the Generative AI's impact on the workforce and workplace development webinar. We're happy to have you with us. Before starting the program, I'd like to acknowledge NCEDA's annual sponsors, whose logos you'll see on the screen now. These companies and organizations support every component of NCEDA's expansive mission and our growing body of programs. We thank all of these sponsors for their generous support. Webinars that benefit our membership, like this one, result from their support. Today's webinar explores how artificial intelligence is transforming the workplace and what that means for education and workforce development in North Carolina. As AI continues to advance, particularly generative AI, it is reshaping roles across key industries like healthcare, life sciences, and manufacturing. This presentation will highlight the types of jobs most likely to be reduced, eliminated, or augmented, and emphasize the growing demand for subject matter experts who can interpret and supply AI-generated content. Attendees will also learn how AI can help address current and future workforce shortages and see real-world examples of its use in business, education, and healthcare settings. Finally, the session will offer guidance on how K-12 schools, community colleges, and universities can adapt their curricula and training programs to prepare students and workers for the evolving demands of an AI-driven economy. Now, let's introduce our speaker, Dr. Lane Freeman. He is the Director of Online Learning for the North Carolina Community College System, where he leads the integration of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence into education and workforce development. With over 20 years of experience, he has modernized instructional practices and expanded access to high-quality online programs. In 2024, he trained over 1,000 educators on using AI to enhance classroom instruction and administrative efficiency, and he organized the 2024 Immersive Learning Conference focusing on AI and virtual reality in vocational and technical education. Please note that we'll have time for audience Q&A at the end of the presentation, but I think you heard Dr. Freeman may also answer while he's presenting. You're welcome to submit questions at any time using the Q&A box, and we'll address them during the closing portion of the session as well. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Freeman.
Thank you, Andre, for the introduction. I'm going to turn my sharing on so we can get started. So thank you for the invitation. AI is playing a huge role in every sector that we see. Obviously, being from the community college system, a lot of my focus has been about where does AI play a role on campus, the classrooms, increasing efficiencies among our staff members. But we're all on the same team because our community colleges prepare the future to work. And so when I'm advocating for AI in the classroom and on our college campuses, it's because we know that the workplace is going to be using AI and we want to make sure they're using it appropriately. Now, AI hasn't been quite been adopted holistically across all sectors yet. And typically that's because they haven't really seen how it can be used. So hopefully today, I'm going to give you some examples of how AI can be used, show you some prompts, show you some ways that AI is being used. And so those who are not using AI might want to start playing around with it and start increasing their efficiency across the office. So one of the examples of how AI can be used is in the title slide here. The images that you see throughout this entire presentation are generated using AI. And so the example you see here is me simply going to ChatGPT and entering a prompt of a business person working beside a autonomous robot being to help illustrate and demonstrate what it looks like to work beside AI. The beauty behind using AI images is that I can change that scene in any way. I could ask that young lady to be an elderly lady, or I can ask it to be a male or or any ethnicity. I can replace the robot with something else. And so you're able to create your own images. So if you're trying to market for things or trying to come up with materials for your area or your industry, it just comes down to you describing what kind of image you want. Once you see that image, you can start fine tuning it to get it ready for marketing. And so that's one of the powerful things you can see AI being used for. And so even the image that I use for my profile picture that you probably saw, that is AI generated. I used my picture that I took of myself, and wasn't a professional picture, but as a professional headshot here. I actually do not share my professional AI pictures with my wife because he's way more attractive than what I really am. And I don't want to set the bar up too high for her, but I'm okay with it because the suits that I can afford in AI world are a lot better. And I also like to play around with AI. And I think that's one of the things and key takeaways I like for a lot of you to have today is not to be scared of AI, not to be as kind of resistant of it, but to kind of experiment with it, to play with it. And it doesn't have to be just in the workplace while you're doing it. A lot of the things I use in the educational setting come from where I played around with it at home to do things I wanted to do at home. Um, and that I can make that transfer. And so with the wide variety of people who are attending today's sessions, I'm not going to be able to pinpoint exactly how you can use it in your setting, but I want to give you some ideas on how you can creatively use it. And using your hat as an expert in your area, you can use you might can make that crosswalk to how AI could impact what you do on a daily basis. Another example of, again, I'm just like playing with this. So one of the things I did, I uploaded my picture. I wanted myself to be at Yellowstone, and so I was able to create a picture with my profile picture and say I want to be at Yellowstone. And then you see the other side, I've kind of created a family tree of myself where from the 1800s, from the 1600s, and so forth. Again, I'm kind of a kid at heart. I play around a lot with these tools just because I have a weird, kind of a funny sense of humor. But on the practical side, we know that Mother's Day just passed away, and then Father's Day is coming up shortly. So I used AI for some of those things. So one example is I took pictures of our family and I asked it to create a, a Pixar image of that. So I took the picture of my wife and myself, my kids, and then I created a Pixar image. I went to Canva and had it upload and put it on a T-shirt. And then I've created, so this in 2 weeks, when Father's Day is coming around, my dad's going to get a shirt with his grandkids on it. And I'm able to customize that. You also can have a little fun with ChatGPT and just saying, I want to create a toy figure, action figure of what you look like. Again, as you're experimenting with this in fun ways that are practical applications, there's not a hard way. It's not really that difficult to make a transition on how you can use that in your workplace. And some people may find this totally irrelevant and you don't need it. But what I'm trying to do is just kind of spark some ideas. So speaking of sparking ideas, the T-shirt that I created using AI, I was using Canva to create the picture in the T-shirt, and I wanted to see if I could get a discount. And so I went to AI and I asked, what are 10 promotional discounts I could use with Canva at this time? And it gave me a list of 10. Two didn't work, but one of them did. And so I got a discount on the item just by going to AI and asking what are the promo codes for that. So if you're ever buying something, sometimes I buy things from Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop, and you don't have that promo code, sometimes you can go to AI and ask for a promo code. Again, I think that's really cool and kind of a life hack in some ways. Another example I like to show you on how I use AI is that if I'm promoting a conference or if I'm trying to promote an event coming up or I want to do an ad and I don't have time to hire an actor, or if I don't have time to set up a studio, I can go to AI to do that. So I use a program called HeyGen. And this is that program. So sometimes I don't get a great introduction like Andre provided here. And so this is an example of where I pick the AI avatar, and you get to pick from a lot of AI avatars. So you can choose male, female, professional clothing, casual clothing. They could be sitting on a couch, but then you're able to type in the script, and that script can be um, whatever you want it to be, and then that AI avatar is going to say that information for you. And so here's a little glimpse of what it sounds like when and I think you'll be able to tell that this person actually speaking language from a script that I wrote.
Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to have your minds blown because I'm about to introduce you to a name that stands synonymous with brilliance, innovation, and downright educational greatness, Dr. Lane Freeman. If you haven't heard of Dr. Lane Freeman yet, let me assure you, this man is a living legend. We're talking about someone who doesn't just change the game, he rewrites the entire rule book on education and technology.
Okay, and then you can take that and you can transition even to their facial directions. You can zoom in and zoom out and kind of splice together a video. And Mary asked the question, what is the name of that program? That program is called HeyGen, HeyGen, but it's not the only one out there. I think another company is called 11 Labs. And so you can, again, pick people who you want to do your own marketing. So if you have a website that you want to market, and you want kind of you don't want to have anybody at your office that wants to be in front of a camera, you can do that as well. As a matter of fact, one of the examples I used, I created an AI avatar myself. So even if you had the right environment, all I did was record myself for about 2 minutes talking and training AI on how I speak, my hand gestures. And I was able to promote a conference that I had called the AI and CTE conference that was hosted this year. And I was able to just say, translate the Spanish. And this is what that sounds like.
大家下午好，我是莱恩使用人工智能创建的化身，我很高兴欢迎大家来到卡拉韦会议中心和我一起。这次会议汇集了来自全州的一群才华。
So again, and the translation is wonderful. So some ways I test, they make the translation, because I do not speak Chinese. But if I wanted to test it, I could take the script and just test it in some, like Google Translate, some other AI programs, and ask it to translate it back to English to make sure it was hitting on the point. But again, if you're trying to market to people outside of the English speaking community, it's really easy to go into a program like this to do something like create a video. Now, one of the things, the tips that I try to provide, and I'm going to bring over the ChatGPT screen here. When you log into ChatGPT, and you don't have to use just ChatGPT, there are a lot of different large language models. And so ChatGPT is the one I kind of use. I subscribe to it because I don't want to run out of chats. But I've also subscribed and canceled other programs that are just as good. So if you're using Google Gemini, you can use Grok, Anthropic Claude. Claude is a good example for people who use computer programming. It's really good. I think Grok is good at that as well. But what I want you to think of when you're writing a prompt in ChatGPT is to think of the screen as that intern. Just think of it as an intern you brought on into your office, but that intern is really, really smart. As a matter of fact, often the intern has like a PhD in whatever area you wanted to have it in. Also, you want to think of it as not a computer, because the answers that you get from it are going to be based on how you talk to it. So often I'll talk to it just like I would an intern. And your spelling doesn't have to be right. You don't have to include question marks. You don't even have to capitalize letters, because it's just using the text you give it to predict what the answer should be. But the important thing is that you also have to provide it context, because when you're talking to this intern, it's like if you were to go to a random university and pulled a PhD out of class and came in and said, hey, I need you to help me with a problem. I want to help somebody with the registration. Well, that's just too broad of a topic. And so it's not going to know what registration you're talking about. And so you kind of got to provide context. And you can say, I work at so-and-so's office. We work with clients who do this. Help me draft an email that lets them know this. And so if you're providing that context, it's very helpful. But one of the other things that I've noticed about AI is that it does hallucinate from time to time. So it does make information up. So the better your prompt is, the better the output is, and the less hallucinations you'll get, because you're getting really good answers. But I I think, again, like you're talking to an intern, you want to ask really short burst types conversations with it. I wouldn't ask it for a 30-slide presentation on the history of whatever industry you're in. 30 slides is a lot to ask from an intern because AI wants to be really happy, make you happy, and it wants to be really fast. And so if it's trying to do it fast, when you ask for 30 slides, it's going to make more mistakes than if you ask for 5 slides at a time. And for each of those 5 slides, if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, would be to ask it to fact check it all, right? So one of the things I also like to use it for is my assistant. So I consider my phone and ChatGPT in this to be an assistant that I carry with me at all times. So if I leave a meeting and wanted to remember before I got back to my office what went on in that meeting, I'll summarize to my intern what I did. So I go to custom ChatGPT, and to add that context, I like for it to call me Lane, so I can not it'll know my name. It'll even put my name in the subject lines when I or the signature lines when I write the emails. I also tell it what I do. And in this box, you actually can put your job description, what you do at your work, where you work, and that's going to help provide context. So anytime you bring in this intern to help you out, it at least has that frame of reference on what you want it to do. I also hear a lot of people say, well, AI helped me do this, ChatGPT did this, Grok did this. I took a twist on it and I told it I named mine Lorraine Boucher. And because I'm a person who loved 90s comedies, I like her name's Lorraine Boucher because she's the daughter of Bobby Boucher and Vicki Valancourt. And I went as far as to create a picture of what Lorraine Boucher would look like. And so I asked Chat, what does Bobby Boucher look like? What does Vicki Valancourt look like? And I said, create an image of what a 25-year-old daughter of Bobby Boucher and Vicki Valancourt would look like if she were sitting at a desk. And this is the image it came up with. Now, I also, again, as the phone comes up, I can click on the voice mode and say, hey, Lorraine, would you mind introducing yourself to these fine folks who are part of the economic development in North Carolina?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm Lorraine Boucher. I'm Lane's administrative assistant, and I have a background in business administration from LSU and an MBA from Tulane. I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to supporting all of your efforts in economic development across North Carolina.
Hey, thanks, Lorraine. Would you mind translating that into Spanish for our Spanish-speaking colleagues?
Claro. Hola a todos, soy Lorraine Boucher, la asistente administrativa de Lane. Tengo una formación en administración de empresas de LSU y una maestría en negocios de la Universidad de Tulane. Estoy muy emocionada de estar aquí y de poder apoyar todos sus esfuerzos en el desarrollo económico en Carolina del Norte.
So I'm hoping that came across the Zoomosphere there, but she was able to speak very clearly. She was translated immediately. And as a matter of fact, if you had a client or someone you were working with, you can use just your phone like this to do a translation. So I could say, Chat, when you hear English, translate it to Spanish. When you hear Spanish, translate it back to English. And so you can really have a live first-in-person type of translation going on between the two individuals. Again, if you don't have that scenario, try it at a restaurant that you like to go to and see if it works, and practice with people who speak different languages to kind of give it a test run. But I have found that it works really, really well. Also, kind of on the deep dive I take into AI sometimes, again, is just having fun with AI. So I uploaded a picture of Lorraine, and I asked ChatGPT's program called Sora to take Lorraine and put her into motion and make her smile and laugh. So if I click on this play icon down here, this is what AI has done with the picture to make her actually move. So you can see the camera kind of tilts around. She smiles, she moves. But you also notice in the bottom right-hand corner, there's this watermark. So ChatGPT trying to make an effort of when videos are created to put a watermark on it so you know it's AI. But that's not the case for all AI programs. And I want to show you an example in just a second, again, of why of another program that creates movies, especially in the past 2 months. Something has come out that's really phenomenal, and I'll give you a glimpse into that as well. So when we talk about AI, we really are talking about something that's been around for quite some time. Artificial intelligence has been around before the internet was actually available to everyone. But it went through stages of growth. So it would have this burst of use of AI, and then it would kind of go into dark ages for a while. Somebody would come up with another invention for AI, and then it would make a leap. So we started off with just kind of a rule-based learning system. That was considered artificial intelligence. An example of that would be the thermostat that's in your house. And so if you go and set your thermostat at a certain temperature when you leave, and then when you get home, it's going to automatically kick on. That's artificial intelligence, but it's just following some very basic rules. It's not going out and creating new information. Now, machine learning came around in the early 2000s, around probably 2005 or 6. And that is where the machine learns from what you give it, and then it makes predictions based on what you want to do. So an example of this is when you're watching Netflix, and at the end of the show, you do a thumbs up or thumbs down. What you're doing is training the machine on things that you think what you would like and not like, and then it's going to make predictions on what comes up. And you'll notice if you watch Netflix or YouTube, that's how all those things work on making recommendations within the algorithms on what you're like. Again, that's artificial intelligence. Now, around 2010, 15, somewhere around there, deep learning kind of emerged. So deep learning is where it was designed to mimic how the neurons in the brain work by making connections. Probably a good example of that is how Amazon uses deep learning to make predictions of what should be in their warehouses. A lot of you may be using deep learning and not know it's called deep learning AI, but it's saying, we need to make sure that North Carolina has generators and all kinds of other hurricane prep stuff during the hurricane season. And a human often doesn't make those decisions. AI is kind of saying or making the recommendations to humans on this is what we should do. Well, in 2022, generative AI came onto the scene, and that came along because of a tool called a transformer. But so when you say GPT, we're talking about generative, which is generating something. Pre-trained, it means it was trained on a bunch of data that exists already out there in the world. So you're talking about books, manuals, law, all kinds of things that's been trained on. And then the T is the transformer. Now, within the generative AI sphere there's a large language model. And large language models is where that's creating that text for us. And so the images that you saw is kind of a large vision model or a large language model being used to create those images. But what it really did was put an emphasis on, for a while we heard about robots and AI replacing the blue collar worker. We didn't see that a whole bunch. We saw it some, right? But we didn't see it a lot. Now, when the generative pre-trained transformers, or in 2022, when ChatGPT was launched, there was a shift about white collar jobs. And honestly, I hear a lot of people talking about how many jobs are going to be eliminated by this type of AI. I don't see it quite yet. I don't think this version of AI is going to be what does that. I think it's just really good at making what we already do better. And I'll go into that a little bit more. But this is the data, and this is the reason and the mission I go to the community colleges with about why is our role as a community college to prepare students for the workforce means to teach them how to use AI responsibly. And that's because then Microsoft did a study in 2024 that said that 75% of knowledge workers use AI in daily tasks. And I'm sure there's plenty of people on this call that are already starting to use AI just for routine things like drafting emails, letters of recommendations. It's really good at creating job descriptions. And again, what I would do if I were in the workplace and I'm not sure how I'm going to use it, I would just keep Copilot or ChatGPT or something open at all times. And when a task came my direction, I would go to AI and just say, can you help me with this task? And it'll tell you if it can and cannot, but it's really helpful. The other thing that really stood out to me on that study was that 66% of employees or employers prefer candidates with AI skills, even if they have less experience than someone without those skills. Because if you had someone with 20 years experience interview for a job, someone with 15 years of experience interview for the job, they were kind of on the same level with their skill set. But if that 15-year experienced person had also AI literacy or the ability to work with AI, it's almost like you're hiring two people at one time, because if they're so much more efficient. And so how much more efficient can they be? Well, this is a chart that shows you that the light blue dots tell you, or the kind of green dots, tell you how long it takes to complete a task with AI versus the blue dots on how long it takes to complete a task without AI. And all of a sudden you're seeing with each task, you're getting about an hour of your time back. And so while somebody might spend a day writing a perfect website that they want, or they might be trying to draft a memo they want to go out to employees, now you're spending just maybe 30 minutes to an hour doing that. If you're trying to write a marketing campaign, if you wanted to translate that into another language. So you're starting to see how AI can really launch some of the work you're doing. And honestly, I don't know if this is the case for everyone, but there are a lot of tasks that I do throughout my job that I don't look forward to doing, and that is drafting emails to go out. And so AI is really helpful in that. You'll also see where data was shown. They again compared people using AI versus those who weren't. And this was actually a study that was done about a year ago. And AI use led to 12.2% more tasks completed. The task was completed 25% faster, and the experience a 40% increase in work quality. And often, so again, my background being education, I'll send out an email to community colleges or something about a program. In the past, I would send out an email. I would get a lot of questions back that I thought I answered in the email, but I just didn't, again, because I'm in this area so much, I don't think to include certain facts. AI is really good about taking a third person perspective and kind of looking at what they want to do with that. And so you can see why someone who has maybe a few years less experience, but also knows how to use AI, is really capable of boosting productivity in the workplace. And so that brings me to a few quotes here. One is AI is good at tasks, not careers. And so I don't study it like everybody else, and there's lots of perspectives out there about what's happening now with AI. I saw something recently come out from an organization about 30% of employees will be replaced by AI or let go. I'm hesitant to believe that because I use AI on a daily basis. Yet it boosted my productivity, but it allowed me to do other things and emphasize things I really like doing. But I do not see AI replacing what I do throughout my entire career, because there's lots of things that we as humans do that AI is not going to be able to do. Like if it might send out an email to someone, but when that customer has a question, even if you have an AI chatbot, they're going to want to talk to a human at some point. And so humans are going to still be in the loop, at least with this version of AI. So it does require a content expert. So if you are, I did a training for paralegals, as an example. Paralegals are going to get kind of a superpower as well. So where they used to have to review the books and go through case law, there are specific large language models such as Code Counsel that is really good at drafting questions for witnesses or letters that goes out to clients. And so but you still need to know your area so well that when AI misses or hallucinates, that they're able to step in. There was I think a lawyer who went before a judge with a case, and the case was dismissed because he used laws that didn't exist. AI just hallucinated the law, and he didn't take enough time to go through and use his expertise to make sure it was accurate. So again, even like a paralegal is still going to need to know their content well enough to know what questions to ask AI, and then review it, and then make sure it's actually correct. But there is another saying, AI will not replace you, someone using AI will. So that's why I think it's important that we do train people how to use AI, because just like in that case where you had two people interviewing for a job, one that didn't know how to use AI and one that did, the person using AI is going to replace the person who doesn't know how to use AI, because that person, again, that knows how to use AI is much more efficient, a lot faster. And I would even say from the small business center, if you're a small business and you're trying to get started, you're going to have, if you go into the beginning processes of starting a small business knowing that you're going to use AI, you're going to be a much more efficient business. So if you had two competing small businesses going at each other, and one small business was using AI as that superpower and one wasn't, that one small business that uses AI is going to be a lot more productive, do a lot more work, actually spend more time with the clients in the human capacity because they're not buried in paperwork. And so that's, I think that's what's important to kind of recognize there. Now, AI is also going to touch every piece of the landscape, just like the internet now. We can't imagine doing our jobs now without the internet. We can't imagine doing our jobs without computers. I think AI is going to do kind of the same thing. It's going to get to a point where we can imagine doing our job without using AI, even in health industries. They did the study and showed that AI it outscored second-year Stanford med students in clinical case exams. It does a differential diagnosis as least or better than the current tools that are out there. And people actually preferred AI over a physician because it was more empathetic to their needs. Now, I'm not going to go to AI and have it diagnose me and start freaking out. People already kind of Google what symptoms they have going on, and they can go down a really bad rabbit hole. AI could probably do the same thing, but it is good. Sometimes if a doctor tells you something, you can almost use AI as a second opinion to see if you need to see a second doctor about that information. So it's really, really helpful in that. But the AI we're using now is the worst version of AI you'll see. And I said this a year ago, I'll say it now too. When ChatGPT 3.5 came out, which was in November of 2022, it scored on, as you can see here on the exams, in AP Biology, it scored a 60%. In the bar exam, it scored a 90%. But just 6 months later, when ChatGPT 4 came out, it scored a 90% on the bar exam. And in AP Biology, it scored like an 85 on the bar exam. So it's just getting better and it's getting smarter. And that's because the more humans interact with it, the more we're improving what those models have. So with that being said, I'll show you something that just came out about 2 weeks ago. Google has a program called Google VO. It creates videos. Now, VO2 has kind of been out for a while, but VO3 just got launched. And not only does it create the videos, it creates the audio with it. And it's getting to a point, it's really hard to tell whether or not it's AI or if it's real. So here's a prompt I gave VO3. I said, create a video clip of a young Continental Army soldier at the victory of Yorktown in 1781. He's holding a selfie stick with an iPhone, making a social media post. And so I put all that information in there, and this is the video that it came up with.
Yo, it's official. It's a wrap, Redcoats. Cornwallis just threw in the towel. We out here at Yorktown, and freedom's never looked so good. Let's go!
So I created that one myself. That prompt, I actually went to ChatGPT and asked it to create the prompt for me. I went to VO3, put that prompt in, and I created that. Someone else created a video I thought was really good. It animated the Old Testament Bible story characters. So this one, I got a kick out of this one, so I'd like to share this one too.
What's good, fam? Your boy David here, about to yeet this little stone at Goliath and see what happens. Okay, so I told y'all to trust the process, but no, y'all wanted to stay in Egypt stacking bricks. Yo, it's Shadrach. This random dude just showed up. It's getting lit in here.
I got the horses in the back. Horse tack is attached. Hat is matte black. Got the boots that's black to match.
Two in the tomb. No Wi-Fi, no snacks. Just kind of waiting for God to respawn me.
You know I'm a daddy's boy. He's got me in this Technicolor drip. Brother's so jelly right now. They're looking a little sus.
So it's really difficult to tell whether or not that is AI or not. And again, if you're creating a video for your campaign, I've created one with a car salesman coming out pitching the sales of a car. And you, as long as you get the prompt work, you can start to create these videos that you can use. For another example of kind of how AI has evolved and what I was able to do, I was at Wilmington a couple months ago. I looked out the window, I saw the battleship. So what I did was I took a video of the battleship and I asked AI to create an image of a dragon. And I had the dragon land on top of the battleship, and just then there's no audio with this one, but you can just see where you can take and splice things together. So why AI should not be optional, especially if you're a business. I actually put this as part of our guidance handbook that we have at the North Carolina Community College System Office, because in the first image, you see someone that has a handsaw on a construction site building a house. The third image, you see someone using a circular saw. And I think most of you can make that relationship between who's going to build the most houses, who's going to get the job done much quicker using tools and technology. The first image, that person, yeah, they might build the house, but in the meantime, the person in the third image is going to build 4 or 5 houses because they're using modern technology. Now, the center image, if you have a keen eye, you'll notice that that person's hands is in a dangerous situation. And so if you put people in your office that are experimenting with AI and not trained how to use it or have practice, or you're not proofreading what it says, you could do some damage quickly. That image is saying that person's probably going to cut their fingers off. So someone who doesn't know how to use it ethically and responsibly could send out a letter to clients that misses the whole point, or it might be completely inaccurate about what you want to share. So it's always, again, important to keep, and that's part of what this training today is about, is trying to give you a heads up on how it hallucinates. It does make things up, and how if we don't train people on how to use it and embolden people to use it. So typically what you find now is in industry, you'll have employees who are using it, but they don't want to tell anybody they're using it. His name's Ethan Malik, calls those secret cyborgs. People who are sitting in the office and they're just using AI and they're scared to use it. One, because from the leadership at the industry hasn't embraced it, so they're afraid that they might get in trouble for using it, or they might be given other tasks on top of it. And so we want to, I've found that especially when I go to community colleges, when a president is on board with this and faculty are empowered to use it, the entire workplace just becomes more efficient. One other little cool tool I want to show you that I've used AI for. So I took today's registration list, and I chose a couple. Let's see, I went to, let me refresh this screen here. I asked AI to generate a country song based on some of the people attending today. So I told it to act as a country artist, write a country song based on the data below that includes North Carolina Economic Development Association. So we pulled Ken from the Department of Commerce, Lindsay. I just pulled a couple to do that and asked it to write a song. And within just a few minutes, actually less than a minute, it generated a song. So if you're trying to come up with ideas on how to make things rhyme or whatever as you're trying to market things, the next step I took was I actually went to a program called Suno that took that song and I told it to sing it as a female country artist. And this is what that sounds like. And this is all AI generated.
Out where the pine trees kiss the sky and the old red clay runs deep, there's a fire burning in small town hearts where the people don't quit and the dreams don't sleep. Ken's got a vision from the Cormer's crew, building big plans out of Raleigh's view. He's laying down tracks where the money rolls, turning job sites into stories told. Oh, Carolina's building on with calloused hands and boots worn strong. From Mount Balmoral to the mountain pines, we're ready
that's just an example of how quickly you can generate an AI song. If you wanted to market or send out an ad or create a jingle, you could do that. Now, a lot of questions that I get sometimes is, can AI work be copyrighted? Well, it depends. So if that song would not be able to be copyrighted because all I did was write a prompt, AI produced the lyrics. I didn't change anything about the lyrics. I just put it in there and made it sing. But if you use AI, and even the images that I've used, so the videos that I just put a prompt, I didn't change much, can't be copyrighted. I can use them all I want to. Anybody, but the problem is anybody can use them, and that's not a problem for me because I don't care if you use my images or my music. But if the Copyright Office did say that if you used AI as a tool to get to your outcome, you can copyright that. So one example would be Randy Travis had a stroke several years ago, and using AI, he trained AI on his voice. He wrote the lyrics to a song. He was able to do a entire album that used AI as a tool because he still used his band. He still wrote the lyrics. He just used AI on his voice. Of course, I'm gonna get it.
Oh, but they were dark and deeper than the night. But when she'd smile.
So that album was able to be copyrighted because he only used it as a tool. Now, that being said, if I'm using AI on proprietary work, I would not put that into the AI system. So if I was working with Samsung and we were writing some proprietary code on how to improve the algorithms within our phone, then I'm not going to use AI to do that. And I think there is AI that you would buy specifically for your industry that is not able to get out. And so you can actually download large language models designed specifically for your company. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of money to be made for people who can do that. And you can use AI in that way. But again, a lot of times if a computer programmer is trying to figure out something that's proprietary, you can't risk that getting out. So one of the other features that I like about AI is the ability to take in a tool like the Notebook LM, which is a really cool tool. And what you can do with that is you can put in your minutes, your notes, or whatever. Let's say you have an announcements that want to go out. You can create frequently asked questions on that. You can create a study guide, briefing documents. But you also can create podcasts. So let's say people get tired of getting, monthly emails or what's going on, and you don't think they're reading it. You could bring it into something like Notebook LM, and it will create a podcast. So I uploaded an outline of what Newton's law was, and then I clicked it, and then I clicked on generated conversation. And this is a clip from what it sounds like by me just uploading some notes to Notebook LM and it creating a podcast.
By starting with Newton's first law, the law of inertia.
Right.
Now, this law basically states that an object at rest likes to stay at rest, and an object in motion
It likes to stay in motion.
It likes to stay in motion at a constant speed and in a straight line unless some external force acts upon it.
Exactly. Right. Now, to kind of give you an example.
Oh, yeah. Give us an example.
Think about casting a fishing line out on the Outer Banks.
I love it.
Now, that lure doesn't just, keep sailing through the air forever, does it?
No.
It eventually falls due to, gravity, of course,
Okay.
and the resistance of the air and water, too. So what's happening there is that inertia is being overcome by those forces.
It's being overcome. Right.
So again, just really quickly, it created a podcast. And actually now that it will translate those podcasts into 40 different speaking languages. I know Google Meet now will also in a real-time live conversation will translate in real time. And so it's got, and this tool now you can actually pull up, when you pull it up, you can click join and ask the podcaster questions. So another cool feature, And I see the Q&A, and I'll get to that in a second. But I need
By
to get to
starting
this.
with Newton's.
So ChatGPT can see, and almost all the large language models now can see. One way you can play with this at home is open up your refrigerator, take a picture of what's in your refrigerator, and ask it, what do you see in this picture that would make a keto-friendly diet? And it's able to pick out those little nuances. I was at the College of the Albemarle, and we had 2 aviation instructors who were surprised to find out that when they uploaded a picture of a burnt out exhaust pipe from an airplane, the AI was able to see the colorage inside of it and actually kind of help them troubleshoot what was wrong with that. And so it being able to see is powerful. Again, in the health industry, they're using AI to do scans. I still want a human to be there with it, but I also know humans make mistakes. So if they can use an AI program designed to read scans or x-rays, I would welcome that very much, just as a backup plan. And they actually find that AI is catching more of the issues than others. There's a startup company that someone's using. So they found out that, when women have breast cancer, that 30% of the time when they have surgery, they don't remove all the cancer. And then they have to come back for surgery. And then once they come back from surgery, again, another 30% of those have to come back later to get all the cancer out. They're working on an AI system now where while the patient is still under from the first surgery, they're able to go to AI and determine whether or not they need to take out more things. There was also a lot of other research that's really great, I think, in the health world, where AI is able to diagnose some things and find issues and find even going to the granular level of DNA and doing some things like that. So I think we're really in an interesting time here. Just for fun, I use AI at home. So I had this old lawnmower sitting in the back of the yard. I know a lot of people probably have some of these that they just quit. And I took a picture of the AI. I took a picture of the lawnmower, put it on ChatGPT, asked it to write a Facebook Marketplace ad for me. And it's able to read what model of lawnmower it is. It's able to write that description for me. And then I was trying to buy some things on Facebook. So I'll actually now take a picture of what's on Facebook, bring it to ChatGPT, and ask, is this a good price for this item? What are the things I should look for? So again, just kind of a fun way to start using AI in other areas. So we only got a couple minutes left before we go to Q&A. So I want to give you some tips on when you write a prompt. I like using something called the RISE framework. So R in RISE says role. You want to tell AI to take on a role. So act as. So you might say act as a lawyer, act as an accountant, act as all these other things. Now, again, if I'm asking it to be a lawyer, doesn't mean I'm going to actually use it as a lawyer, but it will give you a better answer if you tell it to take on that personality. The data warehouses that the information comes from usually brings in 2 experts to answer a question. An expert meaning a AI system that's designed on that specific area. And so telling it to act as a guidance counselor is going to be helpful. Instructions, you tell it what you want to do. Context, you tell it about what your business is, what you're trying to accomplish, what the goal is. Sometimes you might bring in previous conversations you had to bring in that context. And then constraints. Those are things like, I want my email to be less than 200 words. I want it to be written for, let's say, the general population. I think the average reading level is like 8th or 10th grade. I want it to be written at a 10th grade reading level. And so that's helpful. If you're creating PowerPoints, how many slides do you want? How many bullets per slide? How many words per bullet? And then examples. So if you are applying for a grant and you can upload that grant template, and then you could actually ask the questions and the output's going to match whatever you want it to be. So I am at 150, and so I'll actually stop presenting here. I do see a question here about what recommendations do you have for local government employees who are subject to the Freedom of Information Act at the workplace? So what I would consider is if, let's say, if I were to Google something, would that be part of the Freedom of Information Act? I would think of AI as kind of a Google tool. And so I don't know much about what you can pull as part of that act. I don't know if they can pull up your search history, and they can, then you just need to be careful what you use AI uses for. Most of the time when I'm working with any type of program or anything digital, I assume it might can go public. I do work in the public field, so I'm not going to share personal information. As a matter of fact, if I'm asking for medical records, or medical information or advice, I typically leave out any names anyway, because I assume when things go digital that it can be made public regardless of what sector you're in, because somebody will find it and screenshot it and send it out. So that's kind of a rule of thumb I've always had. I'll stop sharing now. If there are any other questions.
Yeah, I'm looking as well. Don't see any other questions, but as always, if there are additional questions that come up, we can get those answered and sent out in the email, and then I believe there may be an opportunity, or the webinar will be available afterwards via email. But looks like all the questions have been answered. So with that being the case, thank you, Dr. Freeman. We appreciate your highlighting the transformative impact of generative AI on the workplace and workforce development. Your insights into how AI is shaping the future of education and employment are invaluable. Thank you for sharing your expertise and forward-thinking approach with us. So before we go, I'd like again to thank our annual sponsors. We could not do this without you. We're also excited to share several great events happening in the next few months. First, our annual conference, 2025 annual conference, will take place in Wilmington next week from June 11th through the 13th. Registration is still open. If you haven't signed up yet and would like to join us, there is still time. I'm actually looking forward to seeing if we can get that North Carolina song on our DJ playlist. And please save the dates for these events that are scheduled later this summer and in the fall. The 2025 Economic Development Practitioners Workshop in High Point on August 20th. We also have the Charlotte Regional Network Luncheon on September 23rd, and then our fall conference in Asheville on October 20th and 21st. For additional details about these events, please visit our website or refer to our bi-monthly e-newsletter for updates. Thanks again for being with us. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.